Freddy Dodge and Juan Ibarra just shattered every record in gold rush history. What started as a backcountry expedition into Alaska's frozen frontier has turned into a discovery so massive it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about gold mining. We're talking about a single dredge operation pulling an estimated $120 million worth of gold from beneath a glacial river. And that's before the government showed up. Mysterious alloys, Cold War experiments, and magnetic storms. It's not just a gold rush anymore. It's a full-blown mystery buried in ice. Photos have leaked, footage has vanished, and even the U.S. Geological Survey won't talk. So what really happened in the Brooks Range? How did two miners uncover the richest, strangest, and most controversial gold deposit in modern history? Stay tuned, because this is the untold story of the Borealis Dredge, the one find that changed everything. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what Freddy and Juan uncovered next doesn't just defy science, it might rewrite the limits of Earth's hidden wealth. The story begins in the heart of the Alaskan wild. Bitter winds carve across the Brooks Range, where even the snow seems to whisper. A lone bush pilot descends through the fog, landing his battered Cessna on a frozen riverbank. Waiting at the edge of the tree line, Freddy Dodge and Juan Ibarra, bundled in frost gear, faces set like stone. The pilot steps out and hands Freddy a weathered, sealed envelope. He says only one thing before flying off again. This was never supposed to be found. Freddy tears it open. Inside, aged coordinates scrawled in fading ink, a grainy black and white photo of a canyon split open like a scar, and an assay log dated 1952. The note claims yields of 4.6 ounces per cubic yard. Numbers that defy geology, even for Alaska. But what catches Freddy's eye isn't the gold content. It's the warning stamped across the bottom in red. Area designated geothermally unstable. Entry prohibited. Juan tilts the map toward the sun. The coordinates fall deep inside a no-fly zone, miles beyond where any miner dares to set foot. No roads, no records, no reason for anyone to go there. Freddy stares for a long moment, then smirks. Perfect. That night, they pack light. No crew, no network interference, no discovery cameras. Just two men, a portable drill rig, and a dream so big it borders insanity. They fly under total radio silence, hugging valleys and weaving through cloud bands so thick it feels like flying through smoke. The radar's dead zone flickers in and out, like something's distorting their instruments. Juan mutters, "This isn't natural." Freddy just grins. "Then we're in the right place." Hours later, their plane dips between ridgelines carved by glaciers. Below them, a canyon yawns open, a labyrinth of ice and shadow. They set down on a frozen ledge, engines echoing into nothing. What they find there silences them both. Faint mechanical scars cut into the permafrost. Metal treads, massive, decades old. Tracks that vanish beneath layers of snow. They follow them until the white gives way to something darker. Iron, half buried, like the skeleton of a creature the earth tried to swallow. Towering steel, rusted gears, thick cables vanishing into ice. Freddy runs a hand across the frozen hull, eyes narrowing. "This wasn't shut down," he whispers. "It was buried alive." Weeks pass. Word hasn't spread. Yet. The two men camp beside the iron giant, cutting through the ice layer by layer. The deeper they go, the stranger it gets. Pipes too thick for normal dredges. Soviet-era fittings welded over American design. Stenciled letters in faded Cyrillic paint. The deeper they dig, the more it feels like this machine wasn't built by miners. It was built for something else. Juan climbs into the control room through a shattered window. Inside, gauges frozen mid-spin, switches locked in place by rust. He wipes away frost from a metal plate on the console and freezes. Stamped in bold black lettering, Project Borealis 7. He calls Freddy over. "You ever heard of this?" Freddy shakes his head. "Never." Juan points to a strange symbol etched beside the project name. Half gear, half atom, like something out of a Cold War lab. When they unearth 60 feet of conveyor line under the glacier, it's still perfectly preserved. Chains locked in mud, oil hardened like amber. It's as if the entire system froze mid-operation. Rumors begin leaking online after a local hunter posts drone footage of a metallic anomaly in the Brooks Range. Comments flood in, some claiming it's a military relic, others a lost Soviet joint operation from the 1950s. Freddy doesn't care about politics. He looks at the size of the dredge and says, if this thing ever ran, it was eating half the river at a time. The crew back in Colorado tries to convince him to leave it alone. They warn him about magnetic interference, stories from the old miners' archives about machinery seizing up, radio blackouts, and sudden cave-ins. But Freddy isn't chasing gold anymore. He's chasing truth. They called this place unstable, he mutters. I call it unfinished business. That night, under northern lights crackling across the frozen sky, Freddy and Juan shake hands. They're going to bring Borealis 7 back to life. It takes months of planning and absolute secrecy. Juan becomes obsessed with the schematics. Using drones, he maps the entire dredge in 3D, scanning through layers of ice to understand the machine's original design. What he discovers defies logic. Components arranged in patterns no modern dredge would ever use. Circuits feeding into sealed compartments. Hydraulic routes looping back on themselves. It looks more like experimental technology than mining equipment. He builds a replica model using LiDAR data, watching as it materializes on screen. The skeleton of the lost giant, reconstructed piece by piece. It's built to survive collapse, Juan says, like they expected the Earth to fight back. They start flying in replacement parts secretly at night, using chartered cargo planes that land miles from the site. The fewer people who know, the better. They set up generators in snow tunnels, camouflaged with thermal tarps to avoid satellite detection. Whatever Borealis 7 was, someone had gone to great lengths to erase it. Freddy intends to undo that. One day, a snowmobile convoy arrives. 3 unmarked crates. Inside, custom hydraulic pumps, electromagnetic shielding coils, and titanium bolts engraved with a symbol neither of them recognize. Freddy frowns. Who sent this? Juan hesitates. Our backer. He never uses his name. Just sends what we need. Freddy doesn't push it. He knows better than to ask questions that come with money attached. The rebuild moves faster than anyone thought possible. The dredge's metal frame gleams under the weak Alaskan sun, steam rising from the heated joints as they weld new life into the ancient steel. When Juan powers the main line to test the new circuits, every radio within 50 miles crackles to life. Static, then a low, pulsing hum that shakes snow loose from nearby cliffs. The sound is deep and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something waking. Freddy stands in the control cabin, staring at the flickering lights dancing across the board. You feel that? He mutters. The air itself seems to vibrate, pressure rising in their ears. The dredge hums again, louder now, its tone resonant enough to make the ground tremble beneath their boots. Juan checks the instruments, eyes wide. The frequency's off the charts, he says. It's like it's generating its own field. Freddy grins, voice low with awe. Then, let's see what it remembers. Without another word, Juan engages the first dredge cycle. The massive bucket chain groans to life, tearing into the frozen riverbed. A deep metallic clang echoes through the valley as tons of ice and silt churn upward. The monitors flare with erratic spikes, magnetic readings pulsing out of range. Juan taps the screen, thinking it's a calibration glitch, but the signal only intensifies. Freddy leans closer, his tone shifting from excitement to unease. Something's alive down there. Juan exhales slowly. Not alive, he says. Magnetic. The deeper the dredge cuts, the stranger the readings become. Compasses twist in circles. GPS coordinates flicker on and off, and the air smells faintly of ozone. When they pull the first slurry load through the sluice, the sediment glitters. Not the normal mellow gleam of placer gold, but a hard electric shimmer that almost pulses under the lights. Freddy scoops a handful and watches Flex jump slightly toward the metal tray as if magnetized. "That's not just gold," he says quietly. Juan runs a spectral analysis, and the numbers make no geological sense. Iridium, tellurium, traces of nickel and osmium, elements common in meteorite fragments, not earthborne deposits. He cross-references the coordinates with historical impact data and freezes. A single notation from 1893 describes a fireball event over the same canyon, reported by trappers and dismissed by scientists as folklore. Freddy grins. "An asteroid hit here?" Juan nods slowly. "Not just hit. It must have shattered right in this river channel." They rename the site the Magnet Line, a boundary where compasses spin and radio calls fade to static. Every miner who visits the area feels it in their chest, like a pressure pushing outward. The dredge's massive hull vibrates, humming faintly even when powered down. Freddy jokes that it's alive, but Juan's not laughing anymore. He's logging magnetic field readings that fluctuate like a heartbeat. Each hour the hum deepens, resonating through the ice, the machines, even their bones. Freddy leans against the railing, watching fog roll over the water. "We're not just mining," he says. "We're digging through a cosmic wound." Days later, they run a full cleanup. When they pour the first bucket, the gold isn't dust. It's coarse, jagged, unusually heavy. Each flake clings to the magnet tray like it doesn't want to let go. Juan weighs it and goes silent. "This isn't normal placer. It's dense, 20% heavier than average. The only explanation is fusion. Gold alloyed with meteoric iron. They've uncovered something no one's ever seen before." When they run samples under ultraviolet light, the lab tent fills with a faint ghostly glow. The gold emits a greenish-blue sheen, shimmering like liquid aurora. Freddy laughs, half in disbelief. "It's glowing. Juan, it's glowing." The next morning, Juan emails the assay report to an independent lab. Hours later, the response is one line: "Do not publish this data. Rumors leak fast anyway." A camera operator who caught footage of the glowing gold posts a blurred still online before being asked to delete it. Within a day, the post vanishes, replaced with a cryptic note claiming Discovery Channel suspended filming at the site due to classified material concerns. Online forums explode with speculation. Some say the dredge tapped into a rare earth deposit. Others whisper about government interference. Juan isolates the new material, separating it from the sediment using a custom magnetic centrifuge. Each pan run reveals more of the strange alloy, gold fused with iron crystals that almost appear engineered. His calculations show 1 cubic yard could yield over $2,500 in gold alone. A number so unreal that even Freddy takes a long, silent breath. But there's more at stake than profit. This find could rewrite geological history. Freddy doesn't hesitate. "Keep it running," he orders. "We go until we hit bedrock." The following week, the weather turns brutal. Winds scream across the valley at 60 miles per hour, snow hammering the dredge in blinding waves. Still, Freddy refuses to shut down. The deeper they go, the stronger the readings become. Pressure waves rippling through the frozen ground. Then, late one night, the dredge lurches violently, knocking Juan off his seat. Alarms flash red across the control board. The seismic sensors are screaming, tremors rising fast. Juan stares at the data. The pressure's not coming from below, he says. It's coming up. Freddy frowns. What do you mean, up? Juan zooms in on the live graph. Pressure waves climbing through the sediment like something moving beneath them. Not tectonic, but rhythmic, pulsing. It's like the ground's breathing, he says. The dredge groans under the strain as the current below starts to shift. Water levels spike, and steam begins rising from cracks in the ice. Juan checks the thermal camera. Bright orange lines spiderweb beneath the surface. That's geothermal activity, he shouts. We're sitting on a sealed vent. Freddy refuses to back off. That's where the gold's sitting, he snaps. It's right there. I can feel it. He pushes the throttle forward. The buckets keep turning, chewing through the permafrost. The ground shakes harder now, snow cascading down from the ridge. Suddenly, the dredge lists to one side as the riverbank collapses. Water rushes in, boiling hot and churning with silt. A sound like thunder cracks through the canyon. The ice splits, and a column of steam erupts from the riverbed. Juan tries to cut the power, but the control panel's already flickering. The hum returns, louder than ever, vibrating through the deck like a living pulse. Freddy braces himself against the railing as scalding water sprays across the deck. The sluice runs red with clay and gold, molten and thick like liquid metal. He watches as grains of pure gold sand pour through, glowing under the floodlights. For a moment, the entire valley glitters. Snow, steam, and molten gold erupting together in a blinding cascade. The roar is deafening, like the mountain itself is screaming. Juan shouts over the chaos. We have to shut it down or we'll lose her. But the dredge keeps grinding, shaking violently. Bolts snap, gears shriek. The river is boiling alive. Freddy grabs the emergency lever and slams it down. The engines cut. Silence, except for the hiss of escaping steam. The deck glows with scattered gold dust, still shimmering faintly in the night air. They stand there, soaked, steaming, hearts pounding. The magnetic readings spike one final time before the instruments die completely. Freddy stares into the fractured ice, where boiling water swirls and flecks of gold twist like embers in the current. We hit it, he says hoarsely. Whatever it is, we hit the vein. The hum beneath the surface continues, faint but steady, pulsing through the ground like something ancient and awake. Freddy and Juan exchange a glance, knowing this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Carefully, they restart the dredge, reinforcing the sluice boxes and clearing debris from the frozen river. Every gauge blinks back to life, engines thrumming in harmony with the magnetic pulse. Then the first bucket drops, and the river responds. Slurry spills like molten fire, sluice boxes bursting under the weight of ice, sediment, and gold. Shards of crystalline metal flash under floodlights, the current carrying them downstream. Each lift of the dredge shakes the rig, but they push harder, feeling the vein feeding into every scoop. The crew worked in stunned silence, no jokes, no chatter, just the rhythmic thud of machinery and the impossible sight of wealth pouring from the earth like a breached vein. Juan shouted readings over the roar, his voice trembling, radiation spikes, magnetic surges. He didn't know what he was looking at anymore, only that it wasn't natural. Freddy watched the monitors flash red, then white, then static. "Don't stop!" he yelled. "Not yet!" But even he felt the pull, the weight of something ancient clawing its way to the surface. Word spread fast. Satellite images began to circulate, a streak of gold blooming across a frozen river. Within hours, online trackers picked it up. Hashtags exploded. Conspiracy channels lit up with talk of Alaska's golden volcano. The night sky shimmered unnaturally bright as metallic vapor rose in misty columns. Juan's laptop pinged. Orbital imaging satellites had registered the reflection. a gold-rich anomaly visible from space. Then came the buzzing overhead. Small, dark drones, unmarked, silent, but clearly military-grade, hovered above the site, recording everything. Freddy cursed under his breath. The lights from their rotors blinked in coded sequences, scanning the site like vultures circling a carcass. "Shut it down," he barked through the static, "before we become the target." The hum of the dredge faded, leaving an eerie stillness. But the river didn't calm. It boiled, hissed, spat flecks of gold like sparks. Freddy stared at the water, knowing it was too late. Something had woken up beneath that permafrost, and whatever it wasn't done. When dawn crept over the peaks, the dredge loomed in silence, half shrouded by steam. Juan's instruments picked up faint hollows below the main channel. One last seismic ping confirmed it. A void, massive and perfectly circular, only meters beneath them. Freddy's instincts screamed to stop, but curiosity and greed overruled everything. "Drill lower," he ordered. "Let's see what's down there." The first cut sliced through frozen gravel. Then gravel gave way to something hollow. A metallic clang echoed through the valley. Cameras snaked through the fissure and transmitted their first image. A chamber, unnatural, too symmetrical, its walls glinting like mirrors. Juan adjusted the feed. The light caught raw gold veins running through quartz, so pure they almost looked liquid. But what froze them wasn't the gold. It was the structure. Support beams. Human-made. Someone had been here before. They lowered a small drone into the breach. The feed flickered, distorted by magnetic interference, but the shapes were clear enough. Tunnels reinforced with century-old timber. Then something glinted near the base of the chamber. Juan maneuvered the drone closer until the light revealed it. A submerged crate, thick with silt, emblazoned with an unmistakable symbol. The Soviet hammer and sickle. Stamped beneath it, Project Borealis, 1949. Freddy felt his blood run cold. He and Juan worked in silence to winch the crate up, the metal groaning under pressure. When it broke the surface, they pried it open with crowbars. Inside lay brittle maps, sealed tubes, and lead-lined boxes. One split open to reveal dull gold bars, each stamped Alaska Test Operation Number. 3. The others contained handwritten notes in Russian and English, geological cross-sections marked with hazard symbols and radiation warnings. Freddy and Juan exchanged glances. It wasn't a simple gold deposit, it was an experiment, one deliberately buried and forgotten. Juan scanned a page. Data on georeactive sediment and electromagnetic amplification through meteoritic catalysts. It made no sense, and yet the evidence lay all around them. The dredge hadn't just uncovered treasure, it had reopened a sealed Cold War wound. Hours later, the first low-flying aircraft appeared on radar. Freddy's portable monitor blinked red, unidentified tail numbers approaching fast from the north. Communications went dead. The radio hissed, GPS froze, and their satellite link went dark. The valley seemed to hold its breath. Freddy shouted to the crew, "Dump the sluice! Everything we can carry." Within minutes, loaders moved gold by the barrel, 20,000 ounces, sealed and hidden before extraction ceased. Juan, pale but composed, worked furiously at his terminal, uploading encrypted footage of the entire operation to multiple remote servers. "If they erase us," he said, "the world will still know." Engines thundered overhead as black-painted planes cut across the sky, sweeping the area with floodlights. The dredge's hum fell silent. Within minutes, men in environmental suits appeared at the ridge, officially investigators, unofficially watchers. They declared an emergency halt, citing contamination risks and seismic instability. The equipment was impounded, cameras confiscated, but the barrels, already gone, buried beneath decoy tarps, hidden miles downstream. Freddy stood by the frozen sluice, gold flecks still clinging to his jacket, as the officials swarmed the site. Juan stayed close, silent, recording on a concealed body cam. The agent spoke in clipped tones about containment and classified material. Freddy didn't argue. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't just about gold. It was about whatever power lay buried beneath Alaska's skin. As they were escorted off-site, Freddy glanced back one last time at the dredge, its hull half covered in frost, floodlights extinguished. The wind howled down the valley, carrying a faint metallic scent. He muttered under his breath, "If they're taking it, at least the world will know what we found." Deep beneath the frozen river, in that unsealed chamber where quartz and gold met steel and shadow, something continued to hum, a vibration no longer mechanical, but alive, resonating through the bedrock, waiting. That hum, faint and persistent, seemed to reach beyond the valley, and within days, fragments of the discovery began surfacing. Word spread faster than wildfire. Screens across the globe lit up with the unbelievable figure: 58,000 ounces recovered before the shutdown, independently confirmed by multiple insiders. $120 million worth of gold, pulled from the frozen guts of Alaska in under a month. But this wasn't ordinary gold. Photos leaked from inside sources showed molten ingots emitting a faint green shimmer, glowing like aurora trapped in metal. Analysts scrambled to explain it, calling it the Borealis alloy, a fusion of meteoric and terrestrial gold, something Earth should not be capable of producing on its own. Radiation signatures defied known isotopes, prompting whispers that it might not even be of this world. The U.S. Geological Survey publicly denied involvement, yet satellite locks over the Brooks Range were suddenly classified. Search coordinates, once open to civilian drones, went dark overnight. Every trace of the magnet line was scrubbed from public databases. The Discovery Channel never aired another frame of footage, but fragments surfaced, still shots, muffled recordings, a drone clip of molten slurry glowing beneath floodlights. Enough to fuel obsession, enough to make people believe. Forums exploded. Conspiracy theorists and geologists alike clashed over the footage. Some said it proved an undiscovered vein of cosmic origin. Others claimed Freddy and Juan had stumbled upon a government-engineered test site left over from Cold War experiments. Either way, the question echoed through every corner of the internet. Where were Freddy and Juan? Weeks passed with no official word. Then, without warning, their companies went silent, websites redirected, and social media accounts vanished. Someone traced shell companies linked to them. New filings in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, even Iceland. Whispers of a rights negotiation surfaced. Private buyers, energy firms, defense contractors. One insider claimed the men were offered a figure that dwarfed the gold's value, not for the metal, but for the technology. The Dredge's modified magnetic recovery system, the one that could detect gold in liquid form. Whether they accepted or refused, no one knew. Then came the denial wave. Government channels issued statements dismissing everything as fabricated digital misinformation amplified by deepfake media. They claimed no such discovery existed, no environmental seizure occurred, and no Freddy Dodge expedition was registered in the area. But while officials pushed their narrative, miners across Alaska began noticing strange disturbances: compasses spinning, equipment malfunctioning, rivers flowing slightly off course. Some claimed chunks of riverbed gravel emitted faint static when held near metal detectors. Juan's name disappeared from public patent registries. His recent filings for a multi-phase magnetic separation dredge were wiped clean, listed as withdrawn by inventor. Archived footage from their expedition was reported missing from all cloud servers, entire backups erased, timestamps overwritten as if the files had never existed. Even the encrypted footage Juan uploaded to his emergency servers was corrupted, reduced to black frames and scrambled audio. A pilot flying freight north of the Brooks Range reported restricted air corridors now guarded by unmarked aircraft. Satellite overlays confirmed new infrastructure. Temporary domes, energy emitters, and fenced sectors built around the magnet line's location. The site was reclassified under a private research designation known only as Project Borealis Research Zone. Locals were warned to avoid it, citing geothermal hazard risk. Yet, at night, distant lights shimmered. Too uniform, too artificial. Meanwhile, rumors emerged from underground bullion markets. Traders whispered about gold bars surfacing with a unique spectral signature, slightly radioactive and impervious to standard assays. These bars bore no mint marks, yet their density exceeded any known alloy. Some said they came from a private sale that Freddy and Juan conducted in secret. Others believed they were stolen fragments of a larger cache, now buried again beneath the ice. A month later, Freddy's voice broke the silence. Just once. He appeared on a fringe podcast, his face half in shadow, eyes heavy. He didn't deny the gold or the operation. When asked if the Borealis alloy was real, he paused for nearly 10 seconds, then said, "Some things are bigger than gold." The host pressed, but Freddy disconnected mid-sentence, the feed cutting to static. His last known appearance. By the time winter blanketed Alaska again, the dredge was gone from public record. Some said it had been dismantled and removed. Others swore it still sat there, half buried in ice, steam rising faintly from its vents on the coldest mornings. Local bush pilots avoided flying low over the valley. From above, the site looked like a crater, unnatural, geometric, almost pulsating in thermal scans. At ground level, trappers and hikers spoke in hushed tones about seeing the dredge's floodlights flicker in the distance, even though its power systems were supposedly gutted months before. One miner who tried to approach the area reported that his compass spun uncontrollably, and every electronic device on him shorted out within minutes. He returned pale and shaking, swearing he heard something humming beneath the ice, a low rhythmic pulse that matched no machinery he knew. Geologists who studied seismic data from the region called the valley geologically impossible. The soil composition shifted unpredictably, forming new silt ridges and water channels each season, as if the land were breathing. Yet, despite official silence, independent orbital scans continued to show strange metallic concentrations reappearing each spring, always in the same curved formation, the shape of the dredge's final excavation line. And somewhere deep beneath that ice, beyond permafrost and stone, the hum persisted. Some said it was the sound of trapped geothermal pressure. Others whispered that whatever Juan's magnetic dredge awakened had not gone dormant. It was alive, ancient, and waiting. At sunrise, the last remaining locals who dared to live near the Brooks Range claimed they could still see the outline of the old machine. A black silhouette against the snow, vents steaming faintly under the pale gold dawn. Wind howled across the frozen canyon, carrying faint static like distant radio chatter. And from a recovered archival tape, one that resurfaced anonymously online months later, Freddy's voice could be heard, faint but steady, recorded before the site was seized. "We woke something ancient in that ice, and it paid us in gold."